And welcome to my show, Tracing the Facts. I'm your host, the nonpartisan Puerto Rican, and today I wanted to talk about a bill that was recently passed by Democrats in California, specifically speaking in San Francisco. The bill, as everybody knows, is SB 145 or Senate Bill 145. Now, recently, immediately after Senate Bill 145 was criticized in newspaper articles, Snopes and other left-wing platforms decided to go ahead and debunk it or delegitimize the claims that are being generated against it. Now, as you can see here, Snopes has already decided that that the accusations against Senate Bill 145 are mostly false, and the reason they claim this is due to semantics. The same reason why they always claim that certain things are false is due to the language that is being utilized. So we're going to go ahead and try to clarify why they did it and how easily the left can utilize semantics in order to either debunk or legitimize an ideal or a concept or an accusation. Now, as you can see here, according to the law that existed before SB 145, consensual yet illegal sexual relations with a child between the ages of 14 to 17 and a partner that is within 10 years of their age does not mandate that the offender register in the sex offender registry. Rather, the judge has the discretion to decide based on the facts of the case whether sex offender registration is warranted or unwarranted. Now, because of this reason, the LGBT community felt that they were being targeted because many of the victims who were victims of pedophilia were victims of pedophilia through the LGBT community. So because of that, the judge was basically forcing many to register in the sex registry. Now, this drove many LGBT activists to actually champion against the language of the bill. So what they did was that instead of amend the bill that already existed, which only considered oral sex or anal sex as crimes that warrant sex offender registry, they should have just added vaginal entry as well. So they didn't do that. What they did was that they lowered the bar of expectation for pedophiles, and rather than amend the law that already existed that protected minors between the ages of 14 and 17 in the LGBT community, what they did was that they amended it, created SB 145, and now you can have sex with a child between the ages of 14 and 17 and be within the ages of 24 and 27, and you won't be forced to register as a child sex offender. So when you think about the language, what they did was that they utilized activism to grant children less protection because they're LGBT. Do you guys understand what I'm saying? So it makes absolutely no sense. So I researched it even further. I ran into this lawyer. His name is Dardulian. He came out with a pretty decent article on his take on what's going on. Now, according to the article that he wrote, he put the goal of SB 145, according to the bill's language, is to exempt from mandatory registration under the Act a person convicted of certain offenses involving minors if the person is not more than 10 years older than the minor and if that offense is the only one requiring the person to register. Are you guys catching this? SB 145, according to the bill's language, is to exempt from mandatory registration the act a person convicted of certain offenses involving a minor if the person is not more than 10 years older. So if the person is 24 years old and the child is 14, they don't have to register. If the child is 16 years old and the man is 26, they don't have to register. You understanding the language now? But rather, according to this lawyer, Gordulian, but rather than amend the existing law to include vaginal entrance or intercourse with a minor as an act that requires mandatory sex offender registration, what they did was that they lowered the bar of expectation for pedophiles in San Francisco, because now not only can they get away with vaginal entrance, which I'm surprised that law even existed, but now through SB 145 they can also get away with sodomizing a young boy. Now it says right here, the bill aims to make all criminal sex acts with a minor over 14 equal by providing offenders with an opportunity to evade, look at the key word, evade said mandatory registration. Doing so would be a disservice to survivors of those sex offenders, to communities, and to law enforcement officials. So when you look at the language of this bill, and as it was clearly translated by this lawyer, is Snope right or wrong by claiming that, stating that the LGBT bill would protect pedophiles who rape children? Is that really then false, or mostly false according to Snope? No, it's not false at all. Matter of fact, it's factual and factual. Here's a lawyer that you guys can go ahead and Google, and you can look up his article on it. Just type in his name and type in SB 145, and you can read the article for yourself. And the article clearly states that it's just a way to exempt predators from mandatory registration, as long as the predator is no older than 10 years compared to the minor. So if the minor is 14 years old and the predator is 14, he gets away with it. He doesn't have to register. If the child is 16 years old and the predator is 26, guess what? They get away with it too. Does that make sense to you guys? Is this then to grant the LGBT community equal rights and the equal enforcing of law? Or is this a way of lowering the bar of expectation for pedophiles within not only the heterosexual community, but also the LGBT community? I want you guys to share your perspective and share your opinion. Tell me what you think about this new law that came out, and whether or not Snope.com is utilizing semantics in order to convince you that the facts are actually surrounded by lies. I want everybody to stay safe, stay informed, and God bless.
Yo, I love when cats think they're bigger than a sumo. That's when I hit them with a little Puerto Rican judo. Oh, you don't know what that is. That's when I say, you don't know who.